Hello everyone, I hope everyone is in good health. My name is Richard Minje. I'm your new instructor for this new module, this online module entitled Land Use and Environment. To provide a short description for this course, I will start by explaining what is land use, then what is the environment. As we all know, we have different types of land use, and of course, this is specific to different countries or different nations, as different types will depend on each specific nation. Then we will also be looking at different aspects of environmental component. As we know, we have different major environmental components, and to state few, we have, for example, the biosphere, we have the lithosphere, we also have the hydrosphere and the atmosphere. So this course will be dealing with the interaction between the two. We will be dealing with the interaction between different set or different categories of land use types and their interaction to different types of environmental component. Let us take some examples. Land use types. What are different land use types? We have different types of land use in Rwanda which always go hand in hand with land cover. For example, of land use types in Rwanda, actually land use types in Rwanda are subdivided into categories where we have agricultural land use and non-agricultural land use. In agricultural land use, we learn different production mechanism, animal production mechanism. Then in non-agricultural land use, this is where we'll be discussing about the built environment, something which is not agriculture, something which is not farming or cultivation. Then after this, we'll be trying to link agricultural land use and non-agricultural land use to different environmental components such as the biosphere, where we'll be dealing with the forests, then hydrosphere dealing with water, the lithosphere dealing with the soil, then the atmosphere dealing with the gaseous earth or the air. For example, of land use again, we have agricultural land use type. We will be watching at, or we will be seeing different impact or different environmental issues that we find in agricultural land use. This is a short description of what we'll be seeing in this course. Then in this course, again, we'll be looking at different land use planning mechanism that comes as a solution to different impact of the land usage on different environmental components. Then the objective of this course, of course, the module will provide basic and more information, detailed information, and enable the student to interpret, to translate and extrapolate basic concepts and principles and even theories that relate with land use and environment. This is, in short, the objective of this module, this e-learning module. Then, what are the outcomes? I'm expecting to get some knowledge and skill in this course. As outcome, students will be able to explain the effect of land use and its changes on different environmental components. Then, after the module again, you as student, my student, you will be able to discuss the importance of the sustainable land use planning on the environment and offers guidance on the main activities involved in a sustainable land use planning framework. And let us describe a little bit and let us list the content of this module. First of all, we will be dealing with the general introduction. In this general introduction, we will be looking at, or the general introduction will be dealing with the function of the land. What are we using the land for? Then we will be dealing with different characteristics of the land use. After explaining what is land use, I will be showing you the categories of land use, and then we will be dealing with what is land use and land cover. What are the differences between land use and land cover. Then we'll be dealing with different, we'll be explaining different conversion from land cover to land use. How do we convert our land? How do we use our land? And what are the impacts that incur from the changes of land use and land cover? Then the second part will be dealing with the environmental component. As previously explained, we have different or major components of the environment. This is such as the biosphere, this is such as the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, and the lithosphere. We will not be dealing with everything, but to state a few, in biosphere, we'll be talking about the forest cover. Forest cover is one among the land use cover of Rwanda. Then we will be dealing with the impact of land use on forest cover, because land use is one among the agents. Land use is one among the driving forces of forest cover change. Then in lithosphere, we'll be dealing with the soil. In the soil, we'll be looking at different impact of land use and its changes on soil quality. Soil quality goes hand in hand with soil pollution. Then to talk about the hydrosphere, on which we'll be dealing with the water quality, we will be talking about the impact of land use on different aspects of water quality or different water bodies, both in Rwanda and all over the world. Then after that, we will take the atmosphere, where we will be dealing with the air, the impact of land use on the air quality, the impact of land use on air pollution. After dealing with all these impacts, then we will be dealing with how to deal with all this impact that comes from the changes in land use and land cover. And of course, for us to deal with such problems, we need a better plan. We need a better management of land use. That is why in part 4, we'll be looking at land use planning and management. In land use planning and management, I will be showing you, or I will be teaching you, different benefits of land use planning and management. Then we will be discussing about the land use planning as a tool to achieve sustainable development. And after that, we'll be dealing with land use planning in our continent, Africa. How is the land progressing? How is the land being used? And how is the land cover being changed in the whole of Africa? Then we will be concluding, or we will be finishing our e-learning module or our electronic module talking about the sustainable land management. How can we manage our land sustainably so that we can achieve most or many of the 17 sustainable development goal. In this, I will be showing you the pillars of sustainable development. Then I will be showing you the pillars of sustainable land management. Then the best practices of sustainable land management. Then we close our session talking about the constraint to sustainable land management, and this will be the end of our module. Then, to give some instruction of the course, please, I need you to create a peaceful environment of this module. As you know, we are just learning offline. We are just learning online. So I will please everyone to put aside everything that might create any disturbance in any form. Then prepare for an individual assignment that shall be uploaded online. Then we shall also pass a group assignment that will be presented also online. Then prepare for a continuous assessment test and an exam that shall be done offline, or that shall be done face-to-face. And please remember, attend regularly the class and also be attentive in class, as we shall be recording your attendance every day. We shall be recording your attendance on a daily basis. We might say that nowadays, in the current time, the world is knowing, or the world is facing increasingly severe environmental, social, and economic problems. What are some of the different environmental problems that the world is facing? The first and main environmental problem we are facing is climate change and its related global warming. And this climate change is also going hand in hand with a set of different natural hazards that the world is facing. We also have soil erosion, we have different forms of pollution. All those are different environmental problems that the world is facing. The economics problem that we are facing, for example, we are facing the problem of low production based and this is caused by the pollution, land pollution that we are facing. And this is what we'll be talking about, the inflation and the deflation during the economic processes. And all these problems are coming to add to different social, cultural problems that we are facing as human when we are using the land, of course. All these problems are challenging the current production system and hinder us or prevent us to achieve the needed sustainabilities. Then this result is particularly true. Everything that we've been talking over here is particularly true, and this is because the resources on which all this activity depends are significantly imbalanced. So all the impact that we are facing are the result of the imbalance between the way we are using the environment or the way we are using the land and the way we are treating the environment. So we need a balance between our human activity, or we need a balance between human activities and environmental components. The land being considered as one of the most essential natural resources. As you know, the land is our precious and very important natural resource. Why do I say so? Because the land supports our life. All daily activities that we are practicing are being practiced on the land, and we need the land for both the survival of the mankind, and for its prosperity. And this is a platform on which human activity takes places and the source of material needed for these activities. So why is the land a precious resource? This is something that this is a question that everyone can respond in this class. Can anyone try? Exactly. Then regarding the function of the land allows various uses and can satisfy diverse objectives. As human, we need to live. For our livelihood, we need the resource to support us. And one among the precious resources that will support or that will sustain our life, this is the land we are living on. So we need to use the land to sustain our life. Then what is land use? Land use is the basic element in human activity. The way humans use the land to sustain their daily life. And a large part of things we do require the land. And if I say the large part of things we do, we understand that we have action, which means human activities. So understand that human activities goes hand in hand with human use or land exploitation. The same land use can cover several parcels with a land occupation. We have our piece of land over here. We have subdivided them into small parcels based on what? Based on what we want to do on that specific land. And we understand that we directly occupy that specific parcel of land. This is what I mean by saying land occupation. And reciprocally, the same land occupation may have several land uses. By occupation, a land might be occupied by different settings. For example, we as humans, we occupy the land. Even the activities that we are performing on that specific land is also called an occupation. Then, what are different functions of the land? We rely on the land. Then, how is the land used for? How is the land functioning to provide all the human needs, the human need of humankind? So the first function of the land is for production. That is why I said productive function. We use the land to increase our productivities. And this is, for example, through agricultural activities. We need a production. Here in Rwanda, as you know, in rural area, or a big or a larger percentage of people rely on what? On agriculture. So we need to use the land for agriculture and for the production. Not only for the it is for the production for home consumption, or also for the market labor. Then the second land function, land is used as a biotic environmental function. By biotic environmental function, biotic means living organism. All the living organisms live in the environment, and especially on the land. So the land is also used as one component that can support life, one component that can support biotic component or biotic environment. Another example that we can state is land is also used as climate regulation. This is very important, as this world or worldwide we are facing what? We are facing climate change. So how is the land used as climate regulative function? On the land we have different occupation. We said people can occupy a specific land, their buildings can occupy different land, but the land is also occupied by forest cover, or in other words, the land is covered by the forest. As we all know, we learned this since even primary school, forests attract rainfall. And apart from that, forests act as a carbon store. Forests act as a carbon sink, or forests act as a carbon sequestration. You learned about photosynthesis in primary school. What is photosynthesis? The way plants will produce their own food, and they produce their own food by capturing all the carbon dioxide or the greenhouse gases, and carbon dioxide is the main greenhouse gases. So during photosynthesis processes, the plant will absorb the carbon dioxide to give us what? To give us oxygen. So during our human activities, we produce different gases, different greenhouse gases that will be spread around the atmosphere. So those greenhouse gases, especially the CO2, the carbon dioxide, will be uptaken by the forest and reduce the CO2 or the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, for us to do what? To minimize the effect of climate change, or to minimize climate change. So understand, if we use the forest unsustainably by, for example, practicing deforestation, we are losing our carbon stock. The emitted greenhouse gases will not have any location to be stored, and this is where climate change originates. This is where climate change takes place. So understand that the more we have tree cover, the more the climate will be regulated, or the more the greenhouse gases will be reduced. This is to explain why land is used as a climate regulation function. Then hydrologic function. The hydrologic function, here we'll be talking about different set of pollutions caused by what? Caused by land use. As we know, we have different hydrological pollution. We have different sources of hydrologic pollution. Then we'll be dealing also with the storage function. The land is also used for a storage purpose. Then it will also use as a pollution control function. The land also control our pollution. The land is also used as a living space, because this is where we as women, and we as men or human, different animals also depends on the land to sustain their own life. Then we also use the land for a connective function. We need connection to move from one place to another place. This is what we call connection, and all those connections are traced on the land. Then, what is land use? After explaining all of this, how can we define land use? We say that land use refers to the management or modifications of the earth land surface by human agent. Based on what we are practicing on the land, we modify the land. So in short, land use is the way humankind or the way human use the land for different purposes. So it refers to the conversion of natural landscape like forests, wetland into built-up environment. This is what we'll be talking about: land use and land cover. Let us take an example of Rwanda. Rwanda have different land cover type. Understand that there is a difference between land use and land cover. An example of land cover is, for example, forest coverage or forest cover. Another example is water bodies. Another example is grassland, then a wetland. Not ignoring that we also have human-made wetlands. Then land use is the way we will be practicing different activity on the land, then affect of the land use coverage. For example, we want to expand cropland activities. We have a shortage of land. Then we want cropland expansion so that we can do what? So that we can increase our production. As human activity, we might do deforestation at the expense of expanding what? Expanding our productivity or expand our cropland. This is where deforestation will occur, and you understand the impact of deforestation. This is also when we will be talking about what we call land use conversion. What is land use conversion? It is to modify one land use type and change it to another land use type. This is another example. Nowadays, due to, I don't know whether I can say it is ignorance, I don't know whether it is a shortage of knowledge or lack of awareness, nowadays, wetlands are being overused. Wetlands are being overexploited. Why? Because they have changed their normal working processes, or they have changed their natural landscape, or they have changed their, it is used for wetland, and wetland is also used for water purification, for even water retention and the prevention of different flooding activities. But now we are overexploiting it by using other different land use. For example, here in Rwanda, wetland agricultural activities are being practiced on the wetland, ignoring that we use different contaminants or different fertilizers that contain different pollutants that can pollute the same wetland and be affected by pollution. Then we also ignore that wetlands sustain different aquatic resources. Then by polluting the wetland, we are also disturbing the normal working of the wetland. To add again, in different wetlands here in Rwanda, I have observed that wetlands are also being used as Kawoshin Bay. And Kawoshin Bay contain different contaminants, different chemicals that might pollute that specific wetland and end up in wetland degradation. And when the wetland will be degraded, we will lose what we call the ecological functioning of the wetland. As I have stated, the wetland has different ecological functioning, different ecosystem services that we get from the wetland, such as the regulation service, because wetland regulate the pollution that might regulate different pollution that happen in that specific wetland. Even the wetland also is used as flood mitigation. Okay, I hope you understand what is land use and what is land use conversion. Then land use shapes our environment in a positive and a negative way. We use our land for our own production. This is a positive way. But we also, the mal usage or the unsustainable use of land use might result into negative impact. And this is everything that I have been previously discussing. Then, what is the land used for? The land is used for different purposes, but those purposes have been subdivided into two categories. We have what we call the agricultural land use, then we have the non-agricultural land use. Let's start by the agricultural land use. In agricultural land use, land can be used for the following agricultural production. Number one, we use the land as crop production. We need production. We need to produce for our own home consumption, and we also need to produce for the market. This is where we'll be talking about the food crops and cash crops. Aside from that, we also use the land for animal production. Animal production is also considered as what? As an agricultural land use. Fishery, the same, is also used as agricultural production. Forestry and agroforestry are also considered as agricultural land use. Then the wildlife conservation has also been put among the agricultural land use, because wildlife conservation also can be used in our daily agricultural activity or agricultural land use. Then by non-agricultural land use, don't understand anything other than the built environment. Anything that we practice that is not for crop production, animal production, and everything mentioned previously. For example, the building to build residential areas, to land use for industrial areas, land use for commercial areas and institutional areas. We also use the land to produce or to build the roads and bridges. We use the land for the purpose of parks and recreational centers, or even mining activities. All of those are considered as non-agricultural land use. So to summarize this in short, we have several types of land use, but all of those land use can be categorized into two categories. The first one is agricultural land use for production, especially agricultural production. Then the non-agricultural land use that refers to the built environment. Then, what are the characteristics of land use? The first characteristic of land use is action. Whenever we are practicing any activity on the land, this is an action. This is why I said a more exclusive or the more inclusive concept of land use is often used in practice, because we commit different actions on the land. Then land use is also characterized by the arrangement, the activities, and the input people undertake in a certain land cover type, whether either to produce, to change, or maintain that specific parcel of land. I think we can end this first unit for today. Thank you for your attendance, and thank you for all your attentiveness. We shall also meet for the next unit, where we will be dealing with environmental issues in land use. Thank you, everyone.